Taika Waititi is a New Zealand film director, screenwriter, actor and comedian best known for his critically acclaimed feature films Boy, The Hunt for the Wilder People, and his horror comedy / mockumentary, What We Do in the Shadows. Oh, and you might also recognise him as the director and voice of the charismatic pile of rocks, Korg, in 2017's Thor Ragnarok.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Korg. I'm kind of like the leader in here.
For the purposes of this video, I'll be focusing on What We Do in the Shadows, which Waititi co-directed, wrote and starred in with Jermaine Clement of Flight of the Conchords fame. What We Do in the Shadows, initially based off a short film of the same name, follows a documentary crew as they observe the lives of 4 vampire flatmates who live in the suburbs of Wellington. Already from the premise we start to get an idea of what sort of storyteller Waititi is. He borrows elements of vampire folklore that are almost exclusively used to create fear and suspense in an audience, and places them in unfamiliar territory. Waititi and Clement write their characters masterfully, giving them distinct personalities, backstories and quirks that invest viewers deeper into the experience. We're introduced to Viago, a 379-year-old vampire who was an 18th century dandy, who's now the pedantic leader of the household.
There was blood all over my nice antique couch.
Which one, the red one?
Well, it's red now, yeah.
Vladislav, an 862-year-old former tyrant once known as Vladislav the Poker.
This is my torture chamber.
Deacon, the 182-year-old bad boy of the group, who was fond of knitting and was part of Hitler's army of vampire soldiers. And Peter, the 8,000-year-old vampire who lives in the basement of a flat and mostly keeps to himself. Later, we're introduced to Deacon's familiar Jackie. Nick, a young vampire who likes to go clubbing and flaunt his undead status.
Yeah, got a bit of an eye condition.
What's wrong with him?
Vampire eye.
And Stu, Nick's best human friend, who the group are all very fond of. And then there's officers Minogue and O'Leary, a slightly oblivious but dutiful pair of Wellington's finest who are called to investigate the vampire's house.
I can see you having a good time. End of the day, we've got to keep the peace, okay?
See what I'm saying?
What's that, Minogue? You're joking. Not a smoke alarm in sight.
No smoke detectors, mate. Rule number 1, smoke detectors.
These two absolutely steal the show. Nobody has ever asked, if vampires need to be invited into a house, how would they get into a nightclub? That is, until this film. Waititi takes the mysterious and elaborate folklore of the supernatural and completely turns it on its head, showing viewers how entirely absurd it all is by recontextualizing it into the modern day. Waititi, as a writer, takes the source material as seriously as it was intended to be taken, but he inserts the characters into mundane and real situations, which only makes the film more effective in what it sets out to achieve. This leaves us with fantastic dialogue-based scenes like the flat meeting.
We'll all do our jobs, starting with a certain Deacon. I will do my dishes! Good to do that! This is bullshit.
The film uses codes and conventions common to the documentary genre, such as clips of one-on-one interviews interspersed throughout footage of the vampires living out their daily or nightly lives, like something you'd see in The Office or Parks and Recreation. But what makes this film so groundbreaking as a mockumentary is the way that it seems to establish the wildly outlandish and surreal premise that supernatural creatures live among us in the most endearing and real way possible. By the end of the film, you as a viewer find yourself feeling for the vampire flatmates, who aren't so much evil, just misunderstood.